Hey, everybody. Well, hey. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Wrestling Through the Years podcast. I'm the armchair QB Dizzle, and I'm here with the sexiest mind in the history of professional wrestling fans and the history of men that wear cartoon shirts. Look at that. We're the Hummer Brothers, and we're here to bring you the Wrestling Through the Years podcast. And, of course, we have a stalwart, somebody who's probably the MVP of the show. C Money's here, everybody.
Yo.
And we have Eric in the chat. We miss you, Eric.
At least for like the next 10 minutes before he decides he has to go to bed.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Or actually, no, he would just be getting up because I think it's 9:30 in the morning there.
Yeah. Is he in Australia?
Yeah.
So he's ready for the main event of Crown Jewel?
Well, no, Crown Jewel it starts at 8 o'clock our time tomorrow.
Yeah.
Morning.
Tomorrow morning. So it would be I don't know why.
You think he's wrestling?
Yeah.
He's on his way to the train station.
Yeah, and plus I already watched SmackDown this morning, so.
What? Well, don't spoil it. I know a couple things. I saw the crowd calling Seth Rollins a wanker, and I like that. And Wade Barrett got a moment. That was cool.
Really?
Yeah, he got to say it because he asked Michael Cole. Because Cody's like, "What are they saying?" And they kept chanting it. And then Cole's like, "I don't know what they're saying." And he had the mic. He's like, "I don't know." And then Wade, "You don't know?" He's like, "I'll tell him." And he's like, "All right, you tell him." And then Wade's like, "Cody, they're saying Seth Rollins is a wanker." And then the crowd's like, "Yeah!" It was pretty cool. But we're here today to talk about. We're gonna go back in that time machine, baby, and we're going back in the past. And we're going WCW versus NWO, a rivalry retrospective. Now, this is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time, I think.
Yeah.
And Cleneth's been recently watching it from what he's been telling.
So this is the best time to do it.
He's been watching it.
I was watching it from the beginning. It's not like I've been like,
No, I know, but you're like rewatching it right now, currently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I know you've seen it, but rewatching it, so it's fresh in the mind. It's one of my favorite eras of all time. Probably my favorite era of all time, even though I wasn't really alive for it. Well, I was just born for it.
Yeah.
And Doug grew up loving it too. And he definitely preferred it over the Attitude Era at the time.
Yeah.
You were a Nitro kid.
Yes.
Even though you watched both. But yeah, Cleneth's a Raw guy. That's what he's about to say, right?
Oh, so I was never a Nitro person.
Well, and now we all get to come together. I like both a lot, but I think to me, if you watch both back to back, there's a lot better wrestling on Nitro and a lot more gaga.
Oh yeah, I do.
So for me, it kind of goes. If you go from the period of like 88 to about 92,
yeah,
WWF to me, even though I did like some of WCW,
yeah.
But for me, it was like from like 88 to 92, and I know I was just like, tiny. I haven't been able to say that in like 30 years, that I was tiny. I mean, in certain areas nowadays, I'm tiny, but
I know you're not talking about your belly button.
No, south of there, but. 88 to 92, like I was more of a WWF guy because I like the golden era. I did like WCW, but like so around that time period, it was WWF, WCW, and GWF for me. That's what I mainly like to watch.
Yeah.
93 through 95, I really wasn't allowed to watch it that much because I got into a fight at school, and Dad figured, oh well, the best way to punish him is to take away everything he likes to watch. So.
Now, in this fight, did you take a steel chair and knock someone out?
No, what happened was here's legit what happened.
You gave him a leg drop.
This kid in school pushed me. I pushed him back. He slapped me. I slapped him back. Now, when I slapped him back, that's what the teacher saw.
Okay. So you didn't make him see Jesus or nothing like that.
So no, all I did was
unfair punishment.
So the teacher said, "Why'd you do that?" I said, "Well, he hit me first." And the kid goes, "No, I didn't." And nobody in the class would vouch for me.
Oh wow. She did a bunch of punks.
Yeah. Teacher called principal. Principal called mom. Mom called dad. I got told I wasn't allowed to watch wrestling anymore. I did get my revenge on this kid in 6th grade. This was in 1st grade. So in 6th grade, I got my revenge on him because I got to see him because we started going to because he had moved shortly after. Yeah. Then we went to middle school together. And I looked at him. I said, you and I got into a fight in 1st grade that cost me a couple of years. I wasn't allowed to watch wrestling. He goes, "Oh, sorry." So then I hauled off and I hit him.
You hit him later?
Yeah. 5 years later, I hauled off. I hit him. We were in the lunch line.
That's fucking amazing.
And he looked at me. He goes, "Do you feel better?"
Thanks, Eric.
He looked at me and said, "Do you feel better?" I said, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "All right. Are we cool?" Yeah.
Really? He let you hit him?
Yeah.
Did he know you were going to hit him before you hauled off and it was a surprise and then he was cool with it?
Well, I told him, I said, "I owe you."
Yeah.
After I told him, I said, "Just so you know, I owe you one." And he goes, "Okay." And then I hauled off and I hit him.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, "You feel better?" "Yeah, I do." "Okay. Are we cool?" "Yeah."
That's a good way to resolve something.
Yeah. And then somebody saw it and they're like, "Do you want us to beat this guy up?" He goes, "Nah." He goes, "We just settled an old grudge. That's all." Oh, and then we became friends.
Holy shit. So he really grew up from it.
Yeah.
Well, that's sweet.
What I really wanted to do was hit the teacher, but
well, that's a sweet story.
Yeah.
But yes, we're here to talk the WCW versus the NWO. And I think you had more to go with that, didn't you? Because you were then you got wrestling back. So
wrestling back in 90. Well, because I was still between 93 and 95.
Yeah.
Mom already knows this, so it's not like I'm breaking anything. Dad still might not have a clue, but he didn't listen to the show.
I think the statute of limitation. I think you're okay.
So between 93 and 95, the only way I would be able to watch wrestling is if I went to Nana and Bapa's house.
Yeah.
Because Bapa still watched it. They hated Dad. So that was Bapa was just like, "Go ahead."
Wow. What a way to turn your family against each other, huh?
But then, so in 96, when I started actually being able to watch it again, it was more WCW. Yes, I still watched some WWF, but WCW was my main thing. I think that was the moral to the story, but then I just got caught up in the
yeah, but WCW
in the flashback.
Watching this back has always been my favorite. I've seen a lot of it a lot of times. And it's my favorite era for sure. And it's the one I grew up in mostly was the Ruthless Aggression era. But going back and watching a shitload of wrestling, what WCW had, the magic in that roster for a while.
Yeah.
For a couple of years there, it was just magic. And that is just an amazing era. And it's great to talk about the feud. Now, there's a couple of parameters here because we're talking WCW versus NWO. So you're not going to get too much Wolfpack versus Black and White.
No.
Because that's a whole separate rivalry that we can do a whole separate show
Okay.
on. But
so we're not going all the way back to the okay.
You will adventure in those territories because Goldberg did feud with the end. So we'll go into stuff like that. And when it's a real NWO feuding against WCW guys. But Wolfpack and Black and White was more of a civil war between the groups than an actual
and the Steiner feud, Rick versus Scott, even though I don't think they ever had a proper.
Well, that was NWO versus WCW.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
About
we're in that.
Yeah, so we could talk about some stuff with that, but that's a different episode. Let's start off by all saying, because we're going to go in all directions. We're not just going from the beginning or anything. We're going to talk about kind of because the WCW versus NWO, I know a lot of people would think, one man versus one man when you think of that feud.
Yeah.
But that may have faced off at Starrcade 97. But if you really watch WCW, you'd realize there's 100 feuds almost where everybody in the group had a feud.
Yeah.
And there were so many fucking people in the group. So I want to ask everybody, barring Sting, who's the best guy to ever rival with the NWO for WCW? Cleneth, you go first.
I will say the Giant.
Oh,
And that's where I'm at, and I say that now because of where I'm at. Because you see the Giant and how fierce his rivalry was with Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan joins the NWO. He rivals with Hollywood for the title, and then joins and help him wins the title. The NWO kicks him out, and he gets kicked out of the NWO, and he's hell bent, and now. I'm in the middle part now where he just won the WCW Tag Team Championship with Les Luger by himself when Luger
yeah.
wasn't cleared to wrestle.
That's some of my
Super
favorite
Bowl.
stuff. That stuff is awesome.
All right, I'm not going to spoil it for him what happens, but
Yeah, please, because I didn't get a chance to watch all the WCW.
Don't worry. If you're invested, I'm not taking it away from you.
All right. Who's your favorite?
Ah,
Who comes to mind? Like the top guy to feud with them besides Sting.
Luger.
Yeah.
Well, Luger, it kind of goes for me. It goes Luger, Dallas Page.
Yeah.
Because
He's a big one.
Luger spent like the entirety of 97 feuding with these guys. And
your face is awesome.
yeah. He spent the entirety of 97 feuding with these guys and like most of 98 until he joined the Wolfpack. But to me, it's just like, okay, you take Sting out of the equation, you take Macho Man out of the equation, which I thought was dumb because I thought Savage was a good, person to feud with them too.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I just got to that part where Savage joined the NWO.
yeah, because it happened at that same show.
Yes.
So it's just, to me, it's just like Savage joins and so it's like it had to be Luger because Luger was part of that 3-man team.
Yeah.
It's funny to me, like if you go back and watch it and you see the signs are like, even like people that were smart, like back in like 96 should have seen that Bischoff was the one controlling everything the NWO was doing.
Yeah.
Because like if you go back and you watch the whole thing where Sting joined, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about the fake Sting, right?
The fake Sting.
Okay.
If you watch that whole thing, Sting was in, it had been noted, Sting was in Japan promoting the tour.
Mm-hmm.
Bischoff failed to mention that. Okay. So it's just like, okay, well, the guy's in Japan. He said he was in Japan. It had been advertised that they were doing a tour and that Sting was doing fucking media for it.
Yeah.
So then why the fuck, would you think he's joining when you know he's not fucking there?
Well, and that's the benefit of the internet not being that crazy back then, to where you can fool the viewer with that.
Yeah, and it's you can.
There was no internet. Actually, to tell you the truth, we just had the hotline, actually called.
Yeah, or like AOL was starting to become a thing.
Well, yeah, the internet was there, but it wasn't. I mean, obviously, what we're doing right now,
and obviously, like Meltzer's Observer was still there too. So, like, if you were a weekly subscriber to the Observer,
yeah, you got to,
you could read that stuff.
But that's the hardcores, yeah.
And then, and then like the next month, Savage is coming out for a match with Mike Enos, and he's preparing for the title match at Halloween Havoc against Hogan, and Bischoff shows Savage this footage of Elizabeth sitting on a porch swing telling Randy that she still loves him.
Yeah.
Taking his head out of the game. And Bobby Heenan and Mike Tenay are just like, what is wrong with you, Eric? Like, this guy needs to be focused and you're doing this. Or like that, Heenan yelled at him, and then Eric Bischoff went to Bobby Heenan, or Eric Bischoff went to Mike Tenay and said, Mike, what do you think? And he goes, I agree with Bobby. You're a complete idiot. Like, for doing that. And it's just like if you were paying attention back then, you would think it's like, all right, why is Bischoff sabotaging his people?
Yeah.
And then obviously a month later, he joins the NWO, completely steals Ted DiBiase's spot.
They were foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that? Because that's a point of contention for a lot of people. And that's like a heavily debated thing of Eric putting himself on the show. A full year and a half before Vince does, by the way. The heel authority figure. Did they really do it in the territories and shit? I don't remember. But because
heel authority figure, no.
I think that Eric Bischoff is pretty much the inventor of that.
Well, GWF tried it, because they had that angle where they had the boss, and it turned out the boss was the commissioner Max Andrews, but it had to be him because according to, and in a couple of weeks when I do the show with the guys, I'll try to dig into it more.
Yeah,
if they'll let me. And they couldn't get anybody else, and they didn't want the obvious choice to be Skandor Akbar.
Yeah.
So Max Andrews is just like, fuck, I'll do it. And it just kind of like fell flat. So like other places have tried it and it sucked.
Yeah. So, and Eric kind of did make it a thing, and he is a good performer. I've said many times I much prefer him as the Raw general manager in 2002, 3, 4.
Yeah.
When he comes to WWE, he's really seasoned as like a professional. To me, a lot of his WCW, NWO shit is just going like this to fucking Hogan and holding the mic and shit.
Well, yeah, he can't suck his dick on live television, so he's got to go like that.
I will say one of the better, though, subsidiary feuds because of that real life aspect is Ric Flair and Eric Bischoff.
Yeah.
And that's a really good NWO feud that had real shit. And the classic fucking fire me. I'm already fired. Fire me. And that shit's so good.
Well, because that stemmed from real life heat, because in 98, Flair had asked for time off because Reed was going to be in a national championship tournament.
For amateur wrestling. His
son, Reed Flair, by the way.
R.I.P.
Definitely R.I.P. And the one person we can actually blame for having to watch Charlotte on TV even though Charlotte's likable now, so he's not necessarily.
Move on.
You'll see though, or is she just playing a likable character?
Well, she's playing a likable character right now.
Well, she's next to a likable person, and it's kind of radiating next to her a little bit.
Yeah,
because she's with somebody that everybody loves.
Yeah. So, Flair is going to be on vacation. He had asked for the time off. He thought it had been approved.
Yeah.
Okay. Bischoff doesn't remember anything about it. Like the paperwork got lost or something somewhere.
Yeah.
So they advertised Flair for, for a Thunder in, I think, North Dakota. And he didn't show. And so Bischoff called Flair and said, hey, you were advertising this, but you weren't here. And he goes, Eric, I'm in, North Carolina or not even North Carolina, because I think even though they said Flair was from Charlotte, North Carolina, he really lived in Minneapolis.
Okay.
I believe. I mean,
they
had a home. They had a home in North Carolina.
Yeah, and the classic story, and it's for fucking Thunder, by the way, which is bullshit.
Yeah,
and the way Rick says it, Eric's like, "No, you're coming. We'll get you a flight. You can pay half of it. We'll get you here." And he's like, "No, I'm not. I'm not coming. I'm staying here." And so it got into a big thing. Eric Bischoff famously had the speech to the locker room that has been confirmed by even him, where he says he's going to ruin Ric Flair and that he's a fucking washed up and shit, which was the wrong way to handle it. But Eric was a young man with a lot of chutzpah. And the way he ran WCW, I still think was very effective, or else they wouldn't have made fucking 40-something million in 98.
Right.
They wouldn't have almost beat the WWE if Eric wasn't a good booker and a pretty good businessman. But obviously there was faults along the way. But yeah, he hated Flair for that, and he was pissed off at Flair, and Flair was pissed off and felt that, what I've done for the business, fuck you, which a lot of people sided with him, especially a lot of the Nitro crowd. So when that is one of the best moments in the history of Nitro, one of my favorites is, the fourth horseman, Ric Flair. And then Bischoff coming down to the railing and him yelling at him. And that's when he did the "I'm already fired," right?
Yeah.
And so, because I think somebody recently mixed that up with, when he's taking his clothes off in there. Because that's a different promo with Mean Gene, right?
When he stripped?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the night after Starrcade 98.
He doesn't do the "fire me, I'm already fired" there, right?
No. That's when he wants Bischoff in another match because Bischoff had beat him at Starrcade thanks to Kurt Hennig.
Yeah.
So they were going to do another they were setting up another match and Flair had straight and they're like, all right, Gene's like, all right, Rick, we have to take a break. He goes, Bischoff, if you turn that camera off right now, I'll be naked when it comes back on. And Larry Zbyszko goes, he'll do it.
That's so good.
And
that's so legendary.
Yeah.
But yeah, that feud had so many good moments, and Bischoff shouldn't have won at Starrcade. That was, especially if you're going to do the finish you do at Starrcade 98 in the main event. Oh no, that was 97, wasn't it? No, Bischoff and Flair Starrcade 98, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You give me a look, but you're just following me. The way Ric Flair should have won that clean. If you're gonna have Nash beat Goldberg and you're gonna end like that, I think you need the good moment before that. I think that would have helped.
Well, they had DDP beat Giant, and they felt like that was a good enough moment to kind of carry for the rest of the
Yeah, but wasn't this the co-main, Flair and Bischoff?
I believe so.
So I think that would have been nicer if you're.
I mean, they scheduled that as a triple main event.
Yeah, and I still love that card.
Yeah,
but I do think that Flair probably should have won that match for all the shit that Bischoff had put him through, and Bischoff being Bischoff was such a hateable character. Flair probably should have won that clean.
I think it's just because they wanted a big moment, because Bischoff was always all about the big moments on Nitro.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, well, we'll give Flair the win on Nitro instead.
And we now know that he never considered Starrcade a big, which I still think is bullshit.
Yeah, he always considered Halloween Havoc a big moment. I do actually think that the reason why, because if you go back and watch that Flair Bischoff match from that Nitro,
yeah,
Randy Savage is the one that helped Flair win.
Yeah.
Maybe Randy wasn't available to be at Starrcade, but he could be at Nitro.
Maybe. Yeah, it probably would have. It was a really good feud that I thought actually they had good chemistry together.
Yeah.
And Bischoff, and a lot of the Starrcade match is Ric Flair beating the shit out of him.
Yeah,
so.
it's what it should be.
Yeah, so I didn't mind it, but it did feel like a little bit how WWE would book it, where Bischoff still goes over. But it was good, and that feud, because it transcended, and Bischoff's the boss, so and it was real life, and that really made people invested into it, and they still, aren't that big of fans of each other to this day. And you heard the whole old locker room story in WWE in the Ruthless Aggression era, where because Ric Flair is always a flair for the dramatic, and he has Arn fucking locker room or something, or shut a door
because he had been drinking.
Yeah, and he has the fucking Arn shut a door, and he's alone with Bischoff, and Bischoff's on the phone, and he's like, "I'm gonna kick your ass." So they've always had beef.
Yeah, he's on the phone, he's on the phone with a realtor getting ready to sell his house, or he's buying a property.
Yeah.
And then Flair comes in screaming, and the realtor goes, "Is everything okay?" And Eric's just like, "I'm pretty sure one of the wrestlers is just drunk and having PTSD."
Yeah. But Ric Flair was ready to kick his ass. So that beef, it's real life. It's like a Matt Hardy edge. Like, it's one of those. And it does work, and it was good on screen. I think another one that we should really touch on, which Cleneth was really talking about it, and I don't know how much we want to spoil for him, but the Giant and Kevin Nash specifically is a really good feud after.
Well, that happens more in 97 into 98.
Yeah, so you probably already saw that, right?
Yeah, I saw it. So basically what I'm doing is I'm rewatching what I rewatched just because of this whole Peacock totally messed up my deal with my Raw library. So I said I want to restart WCW again. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh yeah. So but the Giant, would you agree? Because you said the Giants their best feud. Would
Yeah,
you
I
agree that
would say,
Giant Nash specifically was a damn good?
yeah, I would say that.
Yes. Well, the thing is
All right,
that, or actually, yeah, you go. I've talked
all right.
enough.
All right. So the way I look at it is where I'm at right now and refreshing my memory. I'm enjoying the whole thing with the Giant. How it started out with how he joined the NWO to be like that fourth guy or fifth guy, and that's after six.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have the Eric Bischoff becoming like the mouthpiece of Hulk Hogan. Um, and now where I'm at is that you have Macho Man finally joining the NWO, screwing Piper out of the whole. And I'm really now after watching that, and I'm like, Hogan never in his career beating Piper straight up. He can't.
No. Now, you talked about the Giant joining the NWO. Now, do you and I have talked about this several times, but do you know who was meant for that, for the Giant spot? It wasn't originally going to be him.
No, I do not know.
Okay. The British Bulldog.
That's crazy.
Okay. The Bulldog's contract was expiring. Bischoff felt like adding more WWF guys to the NWO made sense because this was they're taking over thing.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah. So the idea was Davey was going to join and be the next member of the NWO because they had already gotten Hall and Nash, and then Hogan joined. They bring Ted DiBiase in.
I will say, even though Giant didn't last long, better fit though. Like Davey, the chemistry would have been weird.
Well, I mean, if you ask Bischoff said he would have rather had Davey.
I mean, well, yeah, because he doesn't ever give Giant his due. But Giant, to me, still to Eric's credit, to this day, I think
That's a WCW.
He was best.
So with that being said, I will say it can and cannot. And I'll say it just because how we saw how Bret Hart's transition to WCW went.
Yeah.
Minus the whole Owen Hart situation. If you subtract that out and you just throw it in there, I think it might work. I say it might. Because you already how the NWO's crash with just the outsiders with Hall and Nash.
Yeah.
Hogan turned his back to the NWO because technically he's originally WWF. So bringing the Bulldog, Bulldog in there, I think could have made it work.
100%.
Yeah, and that was that was the thing. Because they were also trying to they were still in the midst of trying to sign Bret.
Well, Bret was also, that's a clear, you put Bret with Hogan as soon as the hand's okay. Bret's booked better. Like they just didn't, they didn't know what to do with him, and that is true. Now, Gene's British Bulldog from the Attitude Era, him in the NWO, I wouldn't have minded.
Right.
But I don't know how the chemistry would.
Well, so what happened was, because this was like the 1-year anniversary show, right?
Yeah.
So Bischoff wanted something big. They were working on it. Davey Boy, told Vince, he's like, Vince, I'm not even gonna try to do the accent. Fuck that. I'm gonna leave. They're offering me more money.
Yeah.
And Vince said, please don't. And he upped Davey's pay.
Yeah.
He said, if you want more money, which I don't even think was really that much. And I think it was also too, because everybody technically had to move to Atlanta at that time.
Yeah. Except
for Hogan and Flair and Savage, and Kevin Nash had to move to Atlanta. He just never did.
Yeah.
He kept saying he was gonna, but then he's just like, fuck you. So I think it was just more Davey didn't want to relocate, and Vince was willing to, keep him. And also, too, Brett wasn't going to go, because I think Davey was under the impression at that point that Brett was going.
Well, my point on Brett before that was we should be talking about Bret Hart in this category of the best guys to feud with the NWO.
Yeah.
That's why it was done so wrong. The fact that Bret was in the NWO is insane. And I know he was he was kind of loosely affiliated, but still. The fact he ended up working with Hogan a little bit and they were doing like the heel shit with it, it was like, we should be talking about Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan on this list.
Well, and that's the thing, is that like the reason why Bret had to join the NWO is because, and Hogan, well, he can't admit it now, but
R.I.P.
Definitely R.I.P. Like Hogan did not want to work with Bret because he did not want Bret to think he was going to put him over.
Well, that sucks because Hulk Hogan and the Sharpshooter at a Starrcade would have fucking kept that company going. And it's just easy.
It's just Hogan just didn't see the value in him losing to Bret.
Like even hearing Bischoff talking, it's like, well, we brought him in because of Thunder. It's like, you're already thinking wrong. Why would you bring in Bret Hart for the second show? He's hot off punching Vince in the hottest angle ever.
Well, because they wanted, the original plan was Nitro was going to be NWO, Thunder was going to be WCW.
You got to veer track sometimes. You put that hottest guy in the business in the hottest spot. I understand. You can still stay with Sting and Hogan, but you get Bret in there. I do commend them for trying to bring Bret in the Starrcade main event, even though it was done terribly wrong. But I understand what they were going for, whereas he's going to be the guy that's like a screw job can't happen. Yeah. I understand that plot and what they were trying to do. Just the execution of that whole thing obviously was terrible.
Yeah. But back to like the whole thing with the Giant was not supposed to be, but then Bischoff's just like, all right, well, what are we going to do? And then they're like, all right, well, we'll throw the Giant out there.
When Nash fucking dropped him on his head,
which I still, even though I think the match should not have happened, because here's the thing. Nash was supposed to do the job at Starrcade. He drank a whole bunch of liquor, and smoked a whole bunch of stuff to make it look like he was going to have a heart attack. Like the hospital, or like the EMTs that came to his house even said, they're like, is this a suicide attempt? Do you not want to put somebody over at tomorrow's pay-per-view?
I don't think they asked that.
Oh no, that's what he said.
Okay.
The words came out of his mouth.
Well, it might have been.
They asked, like, apparently the EMT actually asked him, are you trying to kill yourself?
All right, guys, I'll be right back. I have to go help my mom with something. All right. Be right back.
So you don't have to remove them.
All right, but it's a big moment when he drops him on his head, and that's the one time where that happens. Like usually, like a botch or something, but I think that was on purpose, kind of, right? But usually when something like that happens, it's you fucked up. That was a moment where everybody cheered for that. And that was fucking crazy. And that that was if you did a top 50 moments, that's on there.
Well, here's the thing. If he wanted to go over in that match and he wanted to use the jackknife, the problem is when Kevin Nash jackknifed the Giant at Super Bowl 7, which Cleneth had finished watching. Yeah, just finished watching. The Giant was 450 pounds.
Yeah.
Nash could still lift him up. When he went to jackknife him at Sold Out 98, the Giant was 540 pounds. He was the biggest fat fuck in the history of fat fucks. Okay? Because he could not lay off the cigarettes, the cheeseburgers, and the donuts.
I feel a brother on that one.
All right. So you don't smoke cigarettes.
Anymore.
So he, it was hard for Nash to pick him up because, now he's 90 pounds heavier than what he was the year before. And Nash was not, I mean, Nash always says, oh, yeah, I go to the gym. But it's just like when you're as lazy as Kevin Nash is, you're benching probably 250, 300 pounds.
Yeah.
You're not benching like 500, 550. Kevin Nash is too fucking lazy for that. So when he dropped him on his head, it was, oh my God, I can't lift this fat fuck.
Yeah.
So now I don't think he wanted to drop him on his head. I think it was just more, I don't know what the fuck to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he just lost the grip.
It was a good moment though.
Well, I mean, almost killing a guy. I mean, that really is.
I mean, that's it, but the crowd went for it.
Yeah. Well, because the crowd thought it was part of the show.
Yeah.
And Bischoff had just taken a choke slam.
So everybody was kind of into it.
Yeah.
And it really added another dimension onto their feud and showing the cast and shit for a little bit.
In the neck brace, yeah.
Yeah. I like Giant and Nash because the big man versus big man, I think that like spectacle's always good, and they knew how to capitalize on that. My probably personal favorite feud also involves Nash with the NWO, and it's the Steiners and the Outsiders.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back.
Well, we missed you.
It's great to have you. Now we're talking Steiners and the Outsiders.
Okay.
You're well past. And I know you've seen it before, but
yeah.
The Steiners and the Outsiders, I think, is because they made tag team wrestling really mean something. And that division was so hot. And the fact that you had the hottest act in the company in that division, it really meant something. And them going against the Steiners, those are four behemoths going at it. It was a badass visual. They could all work pretty well. Even Nash at the time still. He really gave it. Because that's around 97, like after like Starrcade in 98 and shit, when he stops giving a fuck, you can tell. But when he really gives a fuck and you can tell in his head, he's like, oh, I can be the face of this shit, maybe. And I kind of got to like work my ass. He was working his ass off.
Yeah, the only thing,
give him his credit.
The only thing with the Steiners was that like he did not want to be part of the clean finish.
Yeah.
Like when the Steiners finally got the belts, it was when Nash went for his arthroscopic knee surgery. Now, Hall's still the one that took the fall.
Yeah.
But
they were good matches, though, and it was a good storyline. And when you're going to have the bosses, this, like I said, this was the first time the boss was really in charge, so they were feeling it out. So, like, doing stuff like taking the belts away from them and not giving them matches and shit, like, that shit all added to it, and that the NWO was running the show. And those were like perfect good guys. And Scott turning on Rick is still, and going into Rick, like this is great storytelling week to week, like transitioning.
I mean, when they did the angle where they ran him off the road.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah. Like I remember I watched the episode of Saturday Night. They opened the show. Scott and Rick opened up an episode of Saturday Night in Atlanta. They wrestled Mike Enos and Bunkhouse Buck. The team of Rough and Ready. They won the match. And then 45 minutes into the show, Dusty and Tony do a little thing where they're just like, we have to report to you that the Steiners were just in a automobile accident. And Dusty goes, yeah, baby, we just got word the Steiners were in this accident. And
the American dream, baby.
And it's just like, when they were just on the show, why'd they leave the building already? And then, the next night on Nitro, they give the, Hall and Nash. Now, Larry Zbyszko and Tony Schiavone come out and they say, we heard that the Outsiders may have had something to do with it.
Yeah.
So Hall and Nash come out and they give Zbyszko and Schiavone a tape. And that's when Larry Zbyszko, that's the first time he picks the fight with Scott Hall.
Yeah.
And they're about to, and Tony Schiavone's trying to hold Larry back. It's like, Larry, they'll kill you. And then that's when you really start to see it's like, okay, these guys are really going to start, like WCW is really going to start to fight back.
And that's another amazing feud. The commentator that was like, fuck it. Scott Hall and Zbyszko is another top 5 feud for the NWO.
Oh, yeah.
That's so entertaining.
I do like this. Larry Zbyszko walking off and having and walking off and doing and his reaction about not being safe. That was Larry Zbyszko, right?
It's such good TV.
Yeah.
Zbyszko knew his mission, and he was so good in that color commentator spot, but he knew like to be the guy to stand up. Like he was the commentator to do it.
Yeah.
And even though Bobby Heenan was like kind of baby, like everybody was kind of baby face on the commentary, unless you had Bischoff or somebody sit in until Dusty kind of turned.
Yeah.
But Zbyszko was so, like, because you knew Heenan. I mean, Heenan was old. Schiavone was, like a typical play-by-play, which is always a pussy role.
Yeah.
So,
although there were a couple of times where Tony, like the NWO, like I remember when Rick Rude and Eric Bischoff kind of like Rick Rude threatened to beat them up if Sting came back out or something.
Yeah.
If the lights had gone out for like a third time, and they're just like, we're going to take it out on you guys if it happens again. And I just, Rick Rude, because Larry Zbyszko was training for the Starrcade match. So he threatened Schiavone, Schiavone, Heenan, and Tenay. And then Tony Schiavone's just like, you know what? If we get our butts kicked, who cares? And Heenan's like, I do. Like, speak for yourself. I'm not taking a butt kicking on behalf of this company.
Yeah,
and then Mike Tenay's just like, Tony, what are you trying to say? He's like, if we get beat up, who cares?
Yeah, I remember that too. That was a good one.
Yeah, and so Schiavone's just like, oh my God, we're gonna get Schiavone versus Bischoff at some point.
That would have been hilarious.
But there was another, like you talk about Larry Zbyszko. I remember Macho Man versus La Parka, and Savage and Hall had come up to the broadcaster's table, and Larry's just sitting there, and they're egging him on, and he's pissed. So he's like, you know what? They're coming out to wrestle. I'm staying right here. And because then, like, Diamond Dallas Page was doing that, he was going to have the mystery partner.
Yeah.
And after he did that particular, Larry did this thing here that I'm going to talk about. There then started to be talk that Zbyszko was going to be Diamond Dallas Page's partner.
Yeah.
It had moved on from maybe Sting, maybe Raven, maybe Kurt Hennig, now maybe Larry Zbyszko. So Zbyszko is just sitting at the table. Bobby Heenan's just like, Larry, you're sitting in my chair. And Zbyszko goes, I want to see this match. Shut up and just let me do my thing. And they had a headset there for Bobby, and Bobby's like, I'm not doing commentary while standing up. I need to sit down. And it's just like sit on Tenay's lap or something. Mm-hmm. So they're doing the match, and Scott Hall goes over and starts taunting Larry. And he goes, and Savage goes for the elbow. La Parka gets his feet up, then goes over and hits a diamond cutter. Unmasks himself, and it's Dallas Page in the La Parka costume. Gets the 3 count, wins. Scott Hall goes running back to the ring because he was so focused on Larry Zbyszko.
Yeah.
He runs back to the ring, and Larry Zbyszko looks at the guys and goes, I think I'm going to leave now.
Yeah.
And then Tony Schiavone's like, please.
Zbyszko and Hall was such a good, and probably one of the better, because it's been done so many times since, the color commentator versus a top talent. Yeah, and we've seen it recently with McAfee and Gunther, but I think it was done probably best with Scott, because Scott Hall was so hot at the time. Like, people forget.
Yeah.
And when people talk about, like, and people still love the NWO, but when people talk about, like, the history of wrestling and, like, periods of wrestlers like that, they were really hot and so over. Scott Hall, 97, 98, 96 was one of the hottest ever in the business.
Yeah.
Like, he is the reason for the NWO, and he is the nucleus. Him coming in from that first episode, and we were bound to bring it up at one point. Not the first episode, but when he comes in, you know who I am, but you don't know I am here. Like, that shit was just so but that shit was great. And he was always, so the fact that he, one of the top guys, is feuding with the color commentator, and it's one of the best programs in the company, shows you how good Scott Hall really fucking was at the top of his height. And he was killer back then. You can say whatever you want backstage, but a TV product, he was so good. And him and Zbyszko was an entertaining program. We do have to talk about Sting and Hogan.
Yeah.
Not so much about Starrcade 97 in the end, because that has been done to death. But one of the best people still bring it up when you ask people the top 5 rivalries of all time. A lot of people like, well, they whiffed it, but a lot of people will say, well, one of the greatest rivalries ever is Hogan and Sting.
Right.
And one of the best fucking build-ups to a fucking match ever is that year build-up before Starrcade. And when he would just come down from the Raptors and Heenan's like, he's here, and like shit like that, it would give you goosebumps. Sting and Hogan had this chemistry. When you think you cannot bring up the NWO versus WCW and not say the name Sting,
right?
You can't do it. He is the top guy to ever go against them, and that is the feud. This is the title of this is NWO versus WCW. For a very long time, it was the NWO versus Sting.
Yeah.
And people gave a shit a little bit about that, and I think that was one of Bischoff's main flaws, as I don't think he did enough to make WCW look cool. You had a DDP, and eventually you had a Goldberg, but for a long time, the fans were coming there for the NWO, and it almost became a problem. Well, it did become a problem.
Yeah.
So the WCW could have been more cooler. One of the guys that was making it cool was fucking Sting.
Yeah.
And he was like the only guy that was like. But people were even more into Sting than they were into WCW.
Oh, yeah.
But when you thought of WCW, you thought of Sting, and that was a big deal. He was the face, and Hogan was the face of the NWO. That's a great point, Eric. And that's why that was the fucking superstar. I'm not going to spoil what we're doing next week to the end of the show, but it's going to involve big money main events, and that's probably one of the biggest you can get.
Yeah.
And like when we were doing our Hogan episode like a month or two ago, and we were talking about his greatest rivals, we had to bring up Sting. And when you think of Hogan in WCW, and you think of you can't think of Hogan without thinking of Sting in WCW.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
And that's what's funny. And then maybe we can let Cleneth actually say something here. I remember a point where like Sting had finally shown his allegiance. Like they thought he was going to be NWO. And then he's just like, he does a thing at Uncensored where he shows that he's WCW. And then he then comes out like a few weeks later in Philadelphia, and he comes out and they're just like, there he is, and Bobby Heenan's like, Sting,
Yeah.
and then he's got like 3 bats in his hand, or he's got like 4 bats in his hand,
So good.
and 3 bats, and Mike Tenay goes, and he's got 3 of his best friends with him. And it was just like, it
was just the word for the whole thing is cool.
Yeah.
And wrestling tries so hard, and it has failed so many fucking times and years and decades at being cool. And when it's at its best and when it's at its most mainstream popular is when it's fucking cool. And nothing is a cooler visual than black and white Hogan with the fucking gang behind him and fucking Crow Sting with the bat pointed at Hogan like, I'm going to fuck you up. It's just so even to this day now, like even if you view wrestling as corny, you can't watch that and be like, all right, this is some cool shit. They just had a swagger about them, and Hall and Nash definitely helped. It's just everything felt so fucking slick and so fucking like you thought you were like when you're watching that, you're like, all right, I'm in on the cool shit.
Yeah. And
Sting and Hogan is like one of the cooler feuds you can get. I'll
Yeah.
stop using the word now. But then when you think, to me, that's the definition of that is they made it cool again. And
Yeah.
when you make it, and Vince was like, all right, well, show titties and we'll be cool. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
So, and Stone Cold had to start flipping people off, and they went really egregious to try to be cool. But these guys were simpler with it, and it just was fucking cool.
Yeah.
But talk about Sting and Hogan a little bit, Cleneth.
All right. So with Sting and Hogan, I will think that's more like I think Sting would have been like it's a preview of how Bret Hart would have been if Hogan and Bret would have been. Because to me, they had similar moveset with the Death Lock compared to the Sharpshooter. Sting, heavy fan favorite. Bret was a heavy fan favorite. And how you guys compared about what if Hogan would have been. I think we would have gotten that as this rivalry with Sting and Hogan would have been.
Yeah. You might be right. And I think you are right. But it just Sting and Hogan made it. Another guy that really made, and God bless him, we brought him up earlier, is Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
And Roddy Piper. And even though he was even though he became the president and shit, for a little bit, he was like, fuck WCW, I'm Piper. I'm fighting for me. I just don't like Hogan. He didn't even care about the NWO. He just cared about not liking Hogan. But it still gave us great matches like Starrcade '96, which was such a good, so many pops in that, and it was so much fun to watch him kick his ass.
There was a moment. It was December 9th, 1996. They were in Charlotte, and Piper comes out and he wants a shot at Hogan. He comes out at the end of the show. By the way, the main event of the show was supposed to be Rick Steiner and Scott Norton. Rick Steiner's music hits, Roddy Piper comes out instead. And there's no explanation as to where the fuck Rick Steiner is.
Yeah.
Okay. And, Scott Norton was fucking lazy and didn't like doing jobs. So I'm sure he didn't mind not coming. If once he's just like, oh yeah, like you're supposed to wrestle Rick Steiner and he was going to go over, but we're making room for Piper. He's like, all right, cool. If I'm not going over, I'm not doing it. Lazy bastard. And so Piper comes out, he calls out Hogan, Bischoff comes out, and Piper just goes and just slaps the shit out of Bischoff. Because Bischoff would not shut up. I do not know what that's like. Never shutting the fuck up.
Quiet guy you are.
Yeah. So he slaps Bischoff. They go on air or off the air, but on Peacock they show some off-air footage where Hall and Nash come out and they're kind of just like circling the ring, but Arn Anderson and Mongo McMichael come out. Well, Kevin Green comes out to end the show and he stands with Piper because they're in Charlotte. All right. And Kevin Green was playing for the Panthers at the time. Well, instead of because Kevin Green was was in the middle of an NFL season, so they weren't going to let him do anything physical. So Arn Anderson and Steve McMichael come out, and Arn Anderson takes the cut. And this is all off the air because they did not want to have that narrative that the NWO was going to get beat up by WCW guys.
Yeah.
Because they were still letting the NWO beat the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
And so Roddy Piper and the Horsemen fend off Scott Hall and Kevin Nash.
Mm-hmm.
And, big hug from, Roddy Piper to Arn Anderson and all that. And Kevin Green and Steve Mongo McMichael, because Green hadn't gotten his payoff yet for Mongo hitting him with the Halliburton at the Bash.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just one of those, all right, this doesn't make sense, but it's a cool moment for WCW, even though it's not on fucking television because they already ended the show. But on Peacock, you get to see it.
Yeah. Now, and we brought him up earlier too, Ric Flair. He says it himself, and I disagree, where he says that when WCW, he had nothing to do with it, with them. I do think he had something to do with it, and he was one of the bigger baby faces going again, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
And the whole Four Horsemen, that War Games match is still one of my favorites. And the whole
I agree.
The promo with Arn and My Spot and Kurt Hennig being the ultimate piece of shit, and the feud with Kurt and Rick after that got a lot of good matches out of it.
Yeah.
Kurt and Rick.
I do have a question. Or let me ask you this. You sprang out the War Games. How do you feel about them replacing Benoit and Steve Mongo for Luger and what was it? Yeah, Sting at the time for War Games? Because really,
So
that's really brought up the whole.
I brought up 97. didn't
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
you
were
brought
at
up 97. He brought up 96.
That's a different. Match.
Well, you said the War Games match, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the one with the Horseman. Because isn't Benoit the one that no? Benoit won't surrender. Mongo surrenders, doesn't he?
Yeah, because they were gonna.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's the one where infamously Kurt Hennig betrays them, joins the NWO, and slams the fucking steel cage chair on Ric Flair's head, which is still one of the better wrestling visuals of all time.
Yeah.
That shit was crazy. And that's like, I remember as a kid, when I mean, oh my God, like, what the fuck? Arn gave him a spot. It was the whole deal. And he fucked these guys. What the hell?
And what Cleneth's talking about too, that whole thing, because that's where like they do the thing where they make Sting. Everybody believed that Sting joined the NWO.
Yeah.
And then Sting interrupts the interview with the Horseman and Luger and says, "Hey, it wasn't me." And Lex Luger looked at him and said, "Sting, you know what? I don't believe you." And Sting came out, beat up the NWO for about 2 minutes, and then said, "Do you believe me now?" And then walked out of the ring.
Yeah.
Which was stupid. Flair was only out for like 3 weeks after that, Eric. After the after getting hit in the head with the cage door.
Yeah. He wasn't out that long. But the matches with him and Hennig after that were really good.
Yeah.
They had a good feud.
Even the one where he broke his ankle.
Yeah.
Which this is why Ric Flair always gets slammed off the top rope. So he doesn't try to do a double axe handle where he breaks his fucking ankle.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that's on the top rope going out to the floor. You're not Randy Savage, Rick.
He was trying some shit.
Yeah, you were trying something that you knew wasn't going to fucking work. Like fucking hello.
You break.
So, well, I don't know about that.
But yeah, I enjoyed those. To me, that's another good subsidiary feud was Hennig and Flair. Another great one is X-Pac and Guerrero.
Yeah.
That's the shining light of fucking Sold Out.
So,
It's a ladder match.
Yep.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that, and then we got there's a feud that didn't happen that we wanted to talk about.
Okay.
But the whole Eddie Guerrero X-Pac thing, the payoff was supposed to be Eddie was going to join.
Yeah.
Because
why didn't he?
He got hurt. Because they do the thing. Eddie accidentally cost Malenko the title at Super Brawl with Cleneth, you saw.
Yes.
Then he goes, and then, it starts a feud between Malenko and Guerrero. And then after Malenko wins the U.S. title from Guerrero and Guerrero injures his shoulder, X-Pac comes on and says, "Guerrero, you should have just followed the plan, but you screwed up." And that was like the last that was ever mentioned of 6 in the Malenko Guerrero feud.
Yeah.
But the plan was for Eddie to join.
That's great.
The NWO.
Yes.
That would have been interesting.
Now, can you really picture him as the NWO original? I can't see it.
No, because first of all, a heel run was what Eddie needed because his character was stalling.
Yeah.
But as far as being in the NWO was already so crowded. Like, you had to get rid of guys like Wall Street and Bubba just to make room for some of these other guys to join.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
But it would have been interesting, but especially when 6 left, it would have been better to have a cruiserweight in there.
Yeah.
Like Eddie. But, yeah, it is what it is. What was the other feud that didn't happen that you wanted to talk about?
Hacksaw.
Oh, yeah.
There were so many setups to possibly have Hacksaw do something with the NWO.
And specifically Hogan. I remember I was watching a Nitro where he wrestled some fucking guy. who was dressed weird.
Now, Cleneth hadn't gotten to that yet, so that's the night after.
Oh, okay, well that's fine.
So Cleneth's going to be watching it probably in a couple of hours.
But he challenged, and he's like, Hogan, and he's like talking shit to the NWO. And I asked you because like I watched a lot of this, but I'm like, does he ever do that? And you're like, no. It's like, oh, well, it seems like they're building it up.
So Duggan first says in like at the end of July that he wants to fight Hogan. A few weeks later, he brings it up again. On September 23rd, 1996, the NWO does their takeover because most of WCW is in Japan, and Macho Man is the only key star there. So Jim Duggan is scheduled to take on Big Ron Studd. They attack Studd. Six takes the match with Duggan. And Duggan potatoes Six in the match. And when Six is trying to, get offense in on Duggan, Duggan isn't selling.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the Giant choke slams him on the floor. Six wins the match. And like kind of seeing that, because Six has talked about it. He goes, look, Hacksaw Jim Duggan's the greatest guy in the world. Trying to do business with him, though, when you are a younger guy, he held a lot of the younger WCW talent down because he didn't want to bump for him, or he didn't want to bump for us. He didn't want to sell for us. And if like you tried to give it back to him, he would potato you.
Yeah.
So, and like after hearing that, it's just like, oh, well, that's probably why. Because here's the thing. Nash isn't going to sell for Duggan.
No.
And Duggan's not going to sell for Nash.
That would have been interesting too.
Yeah. Hogan, Hogan's not going to sell, just like Duggan's not going to sell. Scott Norton's not going to sell.
Scott Hall might.
Well, that's the thing. If you could put Duggan in the ring with Scott Hall,
that would have been good too.
And you could do some stuff because Duggan and Hall work together, I think, in the WWF. So they could do some stuff together, and Scott Hall would have no problem getting like a cheap win or something like that, but he would bump around for Hack.
Yeah.
So
you wouldn't for hardcore Hack.
No. You had to try to find a way to make it work. The thing is that there were so many egos involved, and the fact that Hacksaw wouldn't do, because he didn't like, and this is Duggan's words too. He's just like, look, if you're smaller than me, I should not be bumping for you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, your job as the veteran is to try, and I love Hacksaw, but you're trying to get some of these guys over, and it probably costs you at least a big money television match with Hogan.
Yeah, it did. And that would have been good. I wish we could have seen it. Is there any other feuds?
So, I have a retro special because since we're on this, I want to know what's your thoughts. Suppose they did this NWO takeover NWE around this same area. NWO versus the WWE, not the recall in 2002. I'm talking about this what we have right now, and they do it there. Do Vince play this out there where the NWO had success and make it into like a bigger story? Because NWCW, it seems like these guys have all ego. Hogan won't sell for this. Hogan won't do this. But when you see Hogan in WWE, he sells. He does what he's supposed to do. Will this story arc work better booking in WWE around this time, or leave it there?
My clear answer would be no. Because, and this is why, because Vince has always been, if they're not homegrown here, they were never a fucking star. Whereas WCW leaned in to the outsiders from somewhere else that were big somewhere else, came here and are taking over. WCW, even though they kind of got, fucked over with that reputation of, oh, you only take old WWE guys, they leaned on that for success for the NWO. And they kind of leaned on, they got sued over it. They leaned into it so much.
Yeah.
So they were really cool with the fact that, hey, these guys came from over there and they're taking over here and watch every week to see what happens. Whereas WWE would never be like, oh, Sting and whoever came over and they're taking over. Yeah, they're going to be losing to Triple H next week, but like in the second match on Raw. So like he would never watch look at Taz, look at the invasion angle and the way he did that. Yeah, those guys, they didn't have the stars, but then when Booker comes in and Scott Steiner, and I mean, we've seen the way Vince will treat WCW talent. So I don't think he would ever give them that agency.
And the only reason why I say it, because it's like, yeah, look at the Booker to the later 2000s, how that everything, once the whole contract buyout thing happens, yeah, that's where it happens. But like as a fresh idea, or let's say let's just say these guys are all homegrown WWE guys.
Then he would have done
DX. Suppose DX was like the NWO.
Yeah,
you see Triple H and Shawn Michaels trying to take over WWE.
Yeah,
in a way.
If the Click was there and the Click wanted to do it, to your point, like if Nash and Hall were still there and them and Shawn were like, hey, let us do a takeover angle, I think Vince would have agreed at some point.
Yeah.
I do think they might have done it. And probably to great success. Because I think he would have been comfortable with other guys losing to because those were his boys anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think if the Click was there and they're like, hey, let's do an invasion thing, we're suddenly just gonna take the place over, I think he would have done it. But there was no way he would have done the outsider element. He wouldn't have somebody that was he barely wanted to do it with Ric Flair in 92.
Right.
So he's not a fan of that. But yeah, he might do it with homegrown talent. All right. And they'll do it now.
Yeah.
TNA can come to NXT whatever they want. Can't come to the big one. Maybe the Royal Rumble if we need a couple guys.
And let's not say now we have a tables match for the unified tag titles at Bound for Glory now. NXT
with two
the Hardy. Yeah.
Two young teams.
The Hardys got new gold to add to the flannel.
Yeah, and now the Dudley boys are back.
I swear though, the Hardy Boys look old as shit.
They do.
They had a good match at NXT though. It was the young guys that were fucking that match up. They were doing fine. All right, we got anything else, guys? We can always revisit this.
I was gonna say, do we want to mention Goldberg a little bit?
Yes. But Goldberg's weird because he came into the war between Wolfpack and he ended up wrestling all of them. And he did go against the black and white because he beat Hogan as part of the black and white. When Hogan
because of Scott Hall, he got his first loss against Kevin Nash. The whole taser incident.
Yeah, and then they did the finger poke, and it was going to be the NWO Elite, and then it killed the company. And then nobody ever watched after that. But Goldberg, he was the WC. Like I said about Sting being cool, the next thing that people are like, oh, that's badass, was Goldberg.
Yeah,
and Goldberg was the guy for the best that WCW, not the NWO, but the best that WCW has ever looked. As when Sting's the guy and when's Goldberg's the guy. No offense to DDP, I love Giant, I love these other guys, but Goldberg and Sting are kind of the stalwarts for WCW.
Yeah,
because the two homegrown guys.
Yeah, and what's funny is I remember Goldberg's first interaction, like when he helped WCW at first. It was a Thunder, and Rick Steiner versus Kurt Hennig was the main event, and it went like 2 minutes until the NWO started getting involved. And I think Lex Luger had come out to help, but he was getting beat up. And Goldberg just comes out and he just clotheslines Scott Norton and Brian Adams over the top rope, or does like a double spear.
Yeah.
Throws Vincent out of the ring, hits Kurt Hennig, and then just walks out of the ring, and Luger and Steiner just finish everything up. So Goldberg comes in, lands a couple of shots, pats Rick on the head, and then just leaves.
Yeah, it was sick. Yeah, that's still one of my favorite main events ever when Goldberg beat Hogan. Georgia Dome, right?
Yeah.
40,000?
Yes.
And Goldberg whooped that for a Nitro. And Goldberg whooped that ass.
Yeah, 6 days before pay-per-view.
It was epic.
Yeah.
And then his big title defense is Kurt Hennig.
Yeah, because they realize they're like, we don't want our new world champion to be in a tag match. Because especially like the only guy in the tag match that was a good worker was Kurt Hennig.
Yeah. But the way he got booked as champion was so ass.
Yeah.
He should have been the main event of every pay-per-view. I know it's a quick match and everything, but still. He should have been presented instead of doing the. You can still do the celebrity shit, but that's the co-main.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we can always revisit that. Goldberg was that rivalry was really good. And even though you never really got the proper payoff in the end, it was still, which is a lot of WCW. WCW versus NWO was a fun rivalry to talk about.
It was, and like there were so many guys in like the NWO had so many matches with guys like, you know, we talk about the Horsemen. You know, when they brought Jeff Jarrett in, they made Jeff Jarrett sound like that he was gonna be like this big warrior going against the NWO.
Yeah,
but nobody and none of the fans wanted to cheer Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah,
so they're just like, all right, well, fuck this.
Yeah,
we'll have him instead try to fuck Mongo McMichael's wife.
Hey, what she wound up taking the WWE. The break that, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stone Cold never liked Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett fucking gave him a wife.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest person he did, that benefited from that was Mongo, because then somebody else got to serve his life sentence. Because, being married to Deborah, I'm pretty sure it's like being in prison.
Yeah.
Fucking bitch. Great tits, but fucking bitch. Anyway.
Applies to a lot.
Okay.
This was a lot of fun, guys. Do you want to know what we're doing next week?
That would be lovely.
We're going to be doing our big money main event rankings.
Okay.
So we're going to be talking about all the main events throughout wrestling history. We're not going to get to all of them, obviously. And we're going to do our classic ranking. We're going to have a system, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Cleneth, you going to be here?
Yeah, why not?
All right. So we're going to be talking from Sting and Hogan, Starrcade 97, to Cena and Miz, to also...
Wait, you're not putting Cena and Miz in that, yo.
Rock and Austin, all the great main events throughout history.
I mean, it doesn't have to rank. He could still put it in there. It just doesn't have to rank high.
Yeah.
Zero. But all the great main events throughout history. It doesn't have to be just big, as long as it's like
a big money film.
Yeah, a big one. Because TNA, we can put a few of those.
Goldberg versus Chronic from Halloween Havoc 2000.
Yeah, all the huge ones. So if it has that main event feel, and even if it doesn't, if it's a main event, it's eligible. So we'll be doing the main event tier list.
Yeah.
They're not tier list, main event rankings.
Yeah.
Yep, Cody versus Reigns. Good one, Eric. Go ahead and plug the cartoon show.
All right, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern time on the When Tunes Combined YouTube channel. Of course, will be episode number 10 of Animated Hour of Power, and the battles on the program are as follows. If I can get here, it is Bubble Guppies versus Fillmore.
Bubble Guppies.
The Archie Show versus the Smurfs. Alvin and the Chipmunks versus the Jetsons. And the main event is Solo Leveling versus Fire Force. So it's an anime main event.
I've seen Solo Leveling.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good one.
I still have to. I gotta watch.
I read the manga.
Really?
I'm trying to get into. I watched 7 episodes of it so far.
That's
on Crunchyroll. Yeah, it's different.
I like the dungeon vibe in the beginning.
Yeah, like some of these anime are good, and some of them it's just like
you don't know what the fuck's going on.
I think if you want to watch an anime, you have to start in the middle because the middle is good. You start in the middle, you get to your feel, and then you want to jump to the beginning to see how it happens.
Yeah.
Because I remember my friend recommended me to My Hero, and I watched the first 2 episodes, and I called him and I cursed him out. I'm like, this is nothing but a crying little boy. And you said it's supposed to be all this action, and all he does is cry about how he has no powers.
That's funny.
But yeah, so that's tomorrow. I will be in costume again.
Okay. We're excited for it.
Yeah.
So your Sonic.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. This is the Wrestling Through the Years podcast. Give a like and subscribe, and we'll see everybody next time.
All right.
All right. See you later.
Later.